welcome to my podcast, A Dog's Life. I just want to thank everyone for listening, rating and reviewing the show over the past 4 years. And this week, we're jumping on Zoom to talk to Esther Logue from Paleo Ridge, all about their brand new Paleo Puppy range and their Paleo Senior range. Esther Logue, welcome back. It's
Hi,
been
Anna.
ages.
Oh, thanks so much for having me back. It feels like it's been too long.
It has actually. I think it has been too long because I can't remember the last time you were on, but I'm so pleased you're back because I know for sure there's been an awful lot going on at Paleo Ridge that I can't wait to share with a bigger audience.
Yes, we've had a very busy year, as you know. Lots of products that have come out, and yeah, an industry first as well. So very exciting times.
Well, yes, well, an industry first. Gosh, we love things like that. And that is all to do with medicinal mushrooms, isn't it, Esther?
Yes. So we've actually used reishi mushrooms in our brand new Paleo Puppy and Paleo Senior range. So it's actually incorporated into the recipe, which is great. And for anyone who knows about reishi mushrooms, they are the mushroom that gives everything to a point.
I think they call it the fountain of youth.
They do indeed. Yeah. And that's mostly because reishi mushrooms have an amazing ability to actually help regenerate cells in the body.
It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And I think as well, the reishi is one of only about three medicinal mushrooms that has been backed by science.
Yes. Yes, there has been a lot of scientific research on reishi, probably more than the others actually. But yeah, especially for dogs, because there are many medicinal mushrooms out there and studies have been done on humans, but there's only a few, like you said, that have been done with dogs. So reishi comes top of the list, and rightly so, because the benefits, there's a long list of benefits of reishi mushrooms. And I know that mushrooms are becoming quite popular now. You see supplements and all sorts everywhere nowadays, which is wonderful because I feel like people should know more about them and their amazing abilities.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll never forget Rodney Habib actually on a podcast that we did on the Forever Dog. We were talking about mushrooms, and he actually said that even a can of mushrooms in a tin, possess anti-carcinogenic properties, and we laughed, saying I couldn't imagine eating anything more gross.
Yeah.
But your simple button mushrooms in a supermarket, they are also superfoods.
Yeah, mushrooms are just brilliant. And I think the more you learn about them, the more fascinating they become. They're kind of like an alien being on this world, aren't they? Fascinating. But yeah, even down to, the mushrooms you get in the supermarkets. I know mushrooms are an acquired taste for a lot of people, aren't they? But with the medicinal mushrooms, at least you can get them in tinctures or powders or some form where they're not slimy.
Exactly that, though. I mean, mushrooms in the supermarket and everything, Esther, yes, they do possess properties. But, mushrooms that are traditional medicinal mushrooms from Japan and from China in the main, because mushrooms in Asia have been used in traditional Chinese medicine forever, for thousands of years. And so it's this type of mushroom that you're integrating into the food.
That's right. Yeah. And it's, the fact that it's been used in traditional Chinese medicine for so many years just goes to show how effective it is. Obviously, if it wasn't that effective, we wouldn't still be using it. But the studies, especially there's been more recent studies with reishi mushrooms as well, and just how they can prevent the cells from aging at a rapid rate, which, as you know, that there's so many toxins in the environment and in food, that can cause oxidization, in the cells. So to prevent the aging caused by all of these things is just an excellent addition, especially for a young dog as well, because it works as more of a preventative as well as a protector.
Absolutely. And they always say, it's the young and the old that are the most vulnerable for everything, which is why I guess you've also got the tincture going into the senior range. And having seniors myself, I am loving feeding the senior range for this very reason, knowing that it is, as I always say, Paleo Ridge for me is peace of mind in the bowl. And I think that's something, it's hard for money to buy peace of mind, but I do believe that it is with Paleo Ridge, down to not just, the reishi tincture now being in, say, the senior range, but it's the quality of the meats, the combination of the meats, the added supplements that you offer, not least, the berry good. So we were talking about oxidation just then, by adding lots of polyphenols that are rich in your berry good supplement, that can help balance and counter the stressors that are out there. In our modern world, we can't get away from them, sadly. They're everywhere. And so I just think an awareness of all of this and the power of food to be your medicine.
Exactly that. I totally agree with everything you just said. And I think having these sorts of superfoods, as they're called, incorporated into your dog's diet in this day and age it is actually quite important because, as we well know, health and well-being is more important now than ever, I guess, because there's so much to counteract health these days. Especially with our dogs as well. And it's, the toxic environments all around us. So having ingredients, like the Paleo Plus range, which has got the seaweed and the organic hemp seed powder, and just having a small amount of those ingredients in the food can make a real difference on the inside of your dog, and seems to taste good as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I've always been a great believer in feeding, a species appropriate diet, that is not processed. I don't eat processed food myself. There's a lot to be said for keeping things simple and really understanding how a dog's digestive system works and how what you eat does affect the rest of your body, from your endocrine system to your, respiration to, your gut microbiome, which of course is big at the moment. And everyone seems to be jumping on the microbiome now, with a raft of supplements. There's so many supplements out there now for the microbiome, different probiotics. People are like, right. And I sort of think, oh, crumbs. I suppose it's just business, isn't it? Is it
Yeah.
capitalism? What is it? I mean, but suddenly there's so much choice when indeed a lot of all of that, you see, will come from the soil. And soil probiotics are known to be better for dogs than your milky lactobacillus
Yeah.
strains. So if you're feeding food that has basically come from the soil, which of course meat is, because it comes from the cow or the ruminant that's eaten grass that has grown from the soil, you are supplying your dog with pre and probiotics in Paleo Ridge naturally.
Definitely. And I think that's really important to note, actually. And what you said about there's so many different supplements on the market, and you have to be really careful as well, because, obviously natural pre and probiotics are always the best. But then you do have supplements that are coming out. But when you look at the ingredients, there tends to be lots of fillers and unnecessary ingredients in there when, that's probably going to be counteracting a lot of the good that the pre and probiotics are doing if they're mixed with those sorts of ingredients.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something to be aware of, actually, on a human level. I mean, just digressing slightly, but it's relevant. So I won't name any brands, but I was spending quite a lot of money on a green powder thing that had everything in it from chlorella for humans, And
Yeah.
then one day I thought, oh, I'm just going to look at the ingredients. You know what? They've got saccharin in there.
Oh,
And yeah, and I'm like, oh, crumbs, it's a sweetener to give it a bit of a sweet taste.
it's so unnecessary, isn't it? Like it's, we don't, although I know people like to have things that taste good, but when it comes to like something that's going to be doing you good, we don't need everything to be sweet.
No, absolutely not. And obviously, there's a lot of bad press around, the saccharins of the world, as being carcinogenic. So kind of like, you're doing one step forward to go two steps backwards, perhaps, it's all a bit, counterintuitive to me. So that's something as well that I think, everyone needs to think about with their dogs.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think it's something to be mindful of as well. And always, as we always say when we have a chat on here, that natural is better. So having, a species appropriate diet that's made with grass-fed meat and has got natural ingredients in it, like berries and plants and all sorts, is going to be, that's the preferable diet for health and well-being. Obviously, there's some things, and some dogs as well, where they're going to need supplements added in, and that's absolutely fine, because there's amazing supplements out there. But I think the advice would be just to always check the ingredients, and if you don't know what something is on there, to Google it.
Yeah, and may I add, perhaps speak to a nutrition expert,
Yes,
who
definitely.
might understand what is kind of good on the market and that might help your dog's particular condition and work in a complementary fashion.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. And it's, getting the right advice is, well, as being a nutritionist yourself, getting the right advice is so key, because there's so much conflicting information on the internet. It's just hard, if you're new to, if you're a new time dog owner and you want to give them the best and you're doing lots of research, it can be really overwhelming with the amount of information that's online. So speaking to an expert is definitely advised.
Absolutely, and in a way, when you're bringing a puppy into your life, puppies are born, generally speaking, if they've been bred by a responsible breeder in the right environment, given the right stimulus, from the age of 3 weeks, which is the time they start to hear and they start to see and explore their environment. If it's done properly, and if a puppy is ideally weaned to a raw diet, they're healthy. They come to their homes at 8 weeks, touch wood, with nothing wrong with them. They're ready to go, So it's exciting for me to see this Paleo Puppy being introduced, because it's giving people will see, oh, Paleo Puppy, right, great, that's fantastic. Because often puppies eat the same thing as adult dogs. It's just
Yeah.
they eat more of it because they're growing. They eat 3 times more as a puppy than they do as a young adult, because they've got to grow, and they have to grow very quickly, of course, because they're not people. We take ages to mature. Dogs don't. By one, they are a proper adult, which is, it's just extraordinary, really, that in a very short period of time they can develop so quickly, which means you've got to be really prudent about what you're feeding, because in a very short time, a huge amount of cellular energy, cellular growth, organ growth, muscular development has happened. So if you're not supporting that in, basically a 9-month period till they're about one, things can go wrong in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think, that those first 12 months are crucial for growth and development. And especially in terms of the immune system, because the immune system is still developing even between the ages of 3 and 6 months old. So anything that you give your puppy between, the ages of 8 weeks when you pick up the puppy to 6 months, well, even to when they're weaned, I suppose, is crucial, because that's going to have an effect on their immune system. And it's not to say, obviously, that they shouldn't have, anything that's bad for them or be exposed to any pathogens, but then they're going to be exposed to that in the environment anyway, which is going to help build up their immune system. But having anything that can support and build a robust immune system so that they can live a long and healthy life, that's the direction we were going at when we were coming up with the recipe for the Paleo Puppy.
No, it's great. I love that. So just explain a bit more about Paleo Puppy. What flavors does it come in, for example?
Yeah, of course. So we've got 4 different flavors in Paleo Puppy. We've got turkey, lamb, chicken, and beef tripe and duck. So we've got 3 of them, which are single protein meals, and then you've got the beef tripe and duck with a bit of a mixture in there. And we've included some superfoods in there, which is, for those of you who know our Paleo Plus range, it's very similar to Paleo Plus, with a 5% mix of superfoods in there, except we've got some new additions, which is butternut squash, cauliflower, pumpkin seeds, nettles, wheatgrass, and of course, reishi mushroom. So the reason that we've picked those ingredients is basically for their effect on the immune system and how they can help build a healthy immune system.
So interesting. I mean, now the butternut squash, I mean, it's a part of the pumpkin family, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So it's, it's packed full of beta carotene and, all sorts of things that's important for eye health and skin health. So not only, does things like butternut squash support those things, but it does a whole world of different things, hence why most of these are superfoods.
Yeah, I mean, they really are. And wheatgrass as well. I mean, that's packed with B vitamins, I think.
Yes, yeah, wheatgrass is packed full of B vitamins, and it can also help as well um, deter allergies from a young age.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, so it's that's an antioxidant as well, and I think the term antioxidant um, again it has become quite common recently, and rightly so, because antioxidants need to be included in the diet again, like we were saying earlier, because there's so many toxins to combat these days that having a diet full of antioxidants is going to help fight off any nasty free radicals that are roaming around in the body.
Absolutely. And if someone's puppy, I always find when people are choosing a puppy, the when people are so excited, which of course is fantastic. So fortunes have been spent on toys, on bedding, on various enrichment puzzles, collars, leads, blankets, coats, the
Yeah.
works. But I'm wondering, does anyone ever ask the breeder what have the puppies been weaned to? I don't know the answer to this. I know I've obviously asked this question. It's such an important question to ask, and certainly for me, it would determine whether I got that puppy from that person or not.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree, and I think people are nowadays becoming more aware of the importance of diet, for puppies. I would probably say there's, you know, a bigger amount now of people who are more aware. But you're right. I don't think that that's one of the first questions a lot of people ask, and that's probably one of the most crucial things to ask a breeder before getting a puppy. But I think nowadays as well, you've got like fashion dogs, haven't you? Whatever dog is fashionable at the moment, that's all people kind of think about is whether it's I think Dachshunds are the ones at the moment,
Oh, yes.
have been have been for the last year or so, and everyone wants a Dachshund, which they are incredibly cute and lovely dogs, um, but you
They're
know
a hound,
yeah,
Hounds and terriers are the most difficult to train. Full stop, end of story, turn the page.
yeah,
And the problem, I love taxis. I mean, they're great, they're funny, they're lovely, they've got a huge personality, but they are prone to back problems. And again, this is where diet comes in, because if you're feeding a taxi a very pro-inflammatory diet that's packed full of omega-6, which it's one of my things at the moment, cut down omega-6, because whether we like it or not, there's too much omega-6 everywhere.
yeah,
Omega-6 is good, but omega-3 is the one that's for me the powerhouse essential fatty oil, because it helps the brain, it helps the skin, but it also helps joints. So if you've got a taxi, the key thing from the moment that puppy arrives is to look after their joints, keep their back strong, because it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking when those discs slip, they get IVDD, and a lot can be prevented, of course, with diet. Don't you agree, Esther?
yeah, absolutely. Everything comes back to the diet because it's the same way if you're looking at it as an analogy, I guess. If you put the wrong petrol, or if you put petrol in a diesel car or vice
Oh,
versa.
I've done that.
Yeah, yeah. It's quite common actually that
I know.
happens. But if you put the wrong petrol in or something, then that car's not going to go, it's not going to perform, there's going to be problems.
Oh,
Similar. you know,
I know, you're making me laugh. So I remember when I did it, it was dreadful. It got me, oh, don't. And I conked out on Richmond High Street and it just served me right. But I think now the AA and people like that, they charge you. Actually, I got away with it, but it was like many years ago. Gosh, I think now, they're, it's your fault at the end of the day. You
yeah.
have,
Yeah, it's yeah, I know someone that happened to very recently actually.
oh, really?
Yeah. Well, it was actually Aaron, who's my other half. And it never done it before, but he put petrol in his diesel car and
Oh,
it was just I think he was just in a like in another world when he was yeah, putting it in and yeah, had to get somebody to come out and flush it and it was very expensive. So, but yeah, you know,
but it's a good analogy
yeah,
actually
yeah.
because it is a very good analogy because the same could be said for feeding an overly processed diet that is nutrient deficient compared to a peace of mind in the bowl.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think, the other thing with it as well is we talk about how, good food has an effect on the body, but the other thing we have to remember as well is how well it does for the mind.
100%.
And whatever you're feeding your dog, it will, especially a puppy as well, because if you're feeding a puppy, lots of processed food with additives and lots of carbs and everything in it. I mean, you'll probably be able to vouch for this, but chances are they might be a little bit tougher to train.
Well, they are. And I mean, science backs it all up. Their brain doesn't develop as well or as calmly, if you like, or as in a nourished way as it would if the puppy was being fed on what I call proper food. So there's a lot of attention deficit, a lot of hyperactivity, to name just a few things really, but also of course fueling that connection between the gut and the brain, which now is so out there in scientific terms that I feel surely everyone's heard of this by now. It's been 10 years that the
Yeah.
microbiome now has been really discussed. So there's really no reason to not understand this. For me anyway, I can't even go there now with this convenience angle because for me there is no inconvenience in feeding raw. For me there's inconvenience if you were going to cook your dog's food every day, which okay is still perhaps better than ultra processed, but I don't have time to cook my dog's food. I don't have time to cook my own food. I mainly eat, it doesn't matter what I eat, but, soup and sandwiches basically, but good bread and good ingredients. And I feel that's a good meal. But for my dogs, there's nothing more simple than just thawing out some Paleo Plus or the Senior, which are both staples for us, and serving it. It still perplexes me that many people have this impression that it's a lot of hard work feeding raw. It's just, I can't get it anymore.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think the thought for a lot of people of feeding raw is that it's really complex, but now we have these like complete meals where all you have to do is literally just defrost it in the fridge and then serve it up, and it's that easy. I guess the hardest bit of it is remembering to take the food out the freezer
Yeah.
to defrost it, but you very easily get into the swing of doing that. It becomes second nature.
It certainly does, of course, and it allows you as well to rotate different protein sources quite easily, because you're not thawing out masses in one go as well, and that's important to keep the proteins varied.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why, in the Paleo Puppy range as well, we wanted to get, a good mix of different proteins in there. And, we've done three, which are single protein, just to cater for sensitivities in case some puppies can't have specific meats. But, again, from a young age, it is important to have a good variety of different meats in their diet, all the way through to adulthood and to senior years as well, is to have a good rotation of different meats. And it's nice for them as well, taste wise, because they don't want to be eating the same thing day in, day out.
Absolutely. And it's sad, but a lot of food allergies begin at the weaning stage where, chicken, for example, many dogs are prone to that. And, you can back anno to what the breed are weaned to. I've often asked people to find out, and it will be chicken flavor kibble.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's kibble does have a lot to answer for. When it comes to
No.
allergies and intolerances. So yeah. But then it's not to say, do you know what? I've spoken to people in the past, and their puppies have been weaned on kind of processed kibble, chicken flavored and stuff. And they'll come to us and say that their dog can't have chicken. So, we start them on a raw diet with different types of meat, and then ask them to introduce the chicken, because we have organic chicken in our products, and the dogs are fine with it. So it does go to show sometimes that, if your dog is presenting with an intolerant symptom, for instance, when they're very young, taking them off it and trying like a different quality type a little later down the line, might have a positive impact.
Yeah, interesting. And that is so interesting, because then obviously the quality of the chicken is, very good in Paleo Ridge, and, arguably not so much in a very over processed option. It is actually a completely different kettle of fish or kettle of chicken, actually,
Yeah.
depending on how you want to define it, like a completely different type of food. But should we go back to mushrooms for a bit? Because,
Yeah.
I'm mad about them, and I'm so excited they've become so popular. I mean, I delved deep into mushrooms with Molly, actually, my first miniature bull terrier, and I actually went and got advice for her from a human Chinese medicine practitioner who I'd actually done a bit of cupping, Gwyneth
Yeah.
Paltrow made that famous. Yeah, I did
Yeah.
all of that for a while, and I've always been very keen on acupuncture. Mr. Binks actually is having monthly acupuncture at the moment. It's just brilliant. The meridians. I love all of this. I love the way, everything's hot and cold. You've got your positives and your negatives. It's a really interesting medical system, actually, Chinese medicine, the tradition TCM. It's
Yeah.
fascinating stuff, the different foods. They've got so many different properties in, and obviously mushrooms feature massively, massively.
Yeah, they're I think they're up there, aren't they, in TCM of just being one of the best best medicines, really, because I know, one of the things that they're renowned for, is their ability to fight against cancer, which, is massive. And it's not to say that if you feed food that's got it in, it's gonna cure cancer. But the studies that have been done on reishi mushrooms have shown the impact on somebody that does have cancer, and then they're given the reishi mushrooms, and how it targets the reishi mushrooms targets the cancerous cells, and has an amazing impact on them, which, for something so natural and something that's been around for so many years, the fact it's got this ability is just mind-blowing.
It is mind blowing. That is exactly. And I just think we've got to look more at nature. Nature does have all of so many remedies. You look at different herbs and different, well, seaweed, for example, is another, and kelp, which obviously is in the berry good. It's rich in so many nutrients, and it is arguably also anti-cancer. But the mushrooms in particular, absolutely. So, the amount that's in there, Esther, I mean, so say with Mr. Binks, so he eats about 150 grams of Paleo Ridge every day. What sort of a dose of the reishi would be in that amount of, say, the lamb senior?
So if he's having 150 grams per day, testing my math skills now.
Oh dear. Oh no. Sorry, Esther. It's just a
That's right.
don't ask me to do it.
So I would probably say there is about, I'm just going to do a rough estimate here because
Yes.
I don't have anything in front of me to work it out, but I would probably say there's about 0.25 to maybe zero point 0.5 mils
Okay.
of
Okay.
the tincture. So, when we were coming up with the recipe for the senior range and the puppy range as well, we have to be very careful of how much we're putting into the product, because we don't want to put too much in, and we don't want to put too little in, the fact that it's not going to have an impact. So we had to go with with an average amount that would be suitable for dogs having any amount out of that pack of food. So we had like great conversations with the guys at Bristol Fungarium, and because although their tinctures are marketed for humans, they've had so many inquiries about dogs, and so many people have been giving their tinctures to their dogs. We were like, that's fantastic. So they've been doing lots of research and studies on it as well, which is brilliant. So yeah, within the food there is enough in there to do what we say it's going to do, whether it's protection or prevention.
Oh, that's good. That's brilliant. Mr. Binks heard that.
Yeah.
Yes. I think, well, we're on the turkey tonight, actually, the senior turkey.
Great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because there's just so many things that reishi mushrooms can do. They're good at balancing blood sugar. They can support your heart health. Good for liver function. Yeah, they're just an all-rounder mushroom.
And I think it's very pioneering of the Bristol Fungarium, actually, because I sort of got to know them through yourselves, and I did buy some tincture last year a few times. Actually, I thought, for myself, actually, for a change, loved it. Actually, they do a whole range of mushrooms, because cordyceps is another mushroom that is known for its anti-cancer properties as well. I mean, they're all good for you, really.
Yeah, there's all the medicinal mushrooms have a cancer fighting property to them. um and cordyceps are amazing, because cordyceps can help regenerate cells as well. Lion's mane is a fantastic one, because that's actually been proven to repair the myelin sheath on nerve cells.
Yeah, I know. And for your brain, I know exactly.
Yeah, which is amazing. I do take the lion's mane most days, because I need that in my life right now.
What do you take the Bristol Fungarium one?
Yes. Yeah, and
Ah,
reishi as well.
gosh, yeah, no, that's good. The other mushroom I only learned about recently is the tremella mushroom, which and I was talking to a Chinese friend about it, and in China they use the tremella for respiration, so it really targets the lungs and good lung health. But the other thing is it boosts collagen. Me and my
Wow.
collagen.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Do you know what? I don't know a lot about that mushroom actually. I haven't heard many things about it, but if it helps boost collagen, that's brilliant.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Bristol Fungarium do it. I might be wrong. Yeah, there's so many. So I think, in terms of the value of Paleo Ridge is so much more than meets the eye, because of the thought that goes into the combination of ingredients, and particularly with the reishi now. I think that's really good, and it's really tapping into a much bigger awareness of mushrooms. Mushrooms are all over Instagram now. Like suddenly, I mean, they were nowhere, when I always say when I did my study, but
Yeah.
it was before Instagram went mad, actually, because it was over 10 years ago now. So I suppose it's just moving with the times, isn't it?
Definitely. And channels like Instagram and these social media channels is a great way for things like this to get recognized, because you know I think without the sort of social media side of things, we probably wouldn't have half the knowledge that we've got about these healthy, wonderful things, because well, social media is the place to be now to find out new and upcoming information. But especially with mushrooms, I think now they've become so popular, they are more easily accessible, and that's kind of what we wanted to do with the Paleo Puppy and Senior range, was to make it accessible for people, and actually incorporate it in the food, which I don't believe has been done yet with reishi in the UK. So we wanted to take that mushroom, put it in with a combination of different ingredients, and just try and make this food, which is a protection, prevention, wonderful meal, basically.
peace of
Yeah,
mind that you
yeah.
are giving your puppy the best start. And similarly for the seniors, because with the seniors as well, both the lamb and the turkey have a very low phosphorus percentage.
Yes, and we reduced the bone content in the senior range from all our other ranges have 10% in, and we reduced this down to 8%, to cater for the older dogs who potentially cannot handle as much bone as they used to. So there's that, and then we've got the green leafy veg in there as well, which senior dogs especially, they need their top ups of B vitamins and antioxidants, which green leafy veg are abundant in, as well as magnesium as well. So with the senior range, our thought process was we just wanted to add something in that would be able to slow down the aging process, something that was anti-inflammatory, and that could help control blood sugar as well, which can also be a problem in dogs as they get older. So reishi is Reishi's the mushroom for that.
That's the thing. I mean, we can't all take all the mushrooms,
No,
because that would be kind of a bit mad, but they're all tempting. But I think if you've got to choose one, then it is reishi. And you're right about, accessibility. So I think, in the olden days, everyone was a bit scared, of mushrooms, because some mushrooms are toxic,
of course.
and it would be like, so I went to the place I'd had the cupping because I knew it was a reputable place, and she sold her own mushrooms and so on for human consumption. So I used those for moles, but that was when there were no, I don't think the Bristol fungarium was born by then. So it was a different space. So it's very exciting that we are embracing different cultures and different modalities and different, ingredients really than we've ever done before.
Definitely. And it is quite exciting because, now that people aren't so scared of mushrooms, because I know what you're saying, that people were very wary of them, and rightly so as well, because there are, a lot of poisonous mushrooms out there. But these medicinal mushrooms, the fact that they've got so much good press recently, I think is very exciting. And I'm sure that we will end up seeing more products going forward with medicinal mushrooms in them. And the reason that we chose Bristol Fungarium as well was because I'd actually been using their tinctures for a couple of years, and they are, they use organic soil, everything's organic with them, which is wonderful, and that kind of falls in line with, the quality of our products as well. But the fact they do tinctures, and tinctures are, more bioavailable than say powders. So that was why we wanted to go with them, put the tinctures in the food, because the tinctures are more concentrated, they're more potent, and more bioavailable. So, and they're just a great company as well. I mean, if you haven't heard of them, go and have a look at their Instagram or their website. Their story is really interesting, and you can tell that they're all about nature and, the earth and doing good. So yeah, we love them a lot.
Absolutely, and then, there's the other thing, mushrooms are a prebiotic as well. And I bet in certain capacities, they're also a probiotic, because this world of probiotics, it's still a bit of a mystery. Prebiotics are bountiful. We get that. But I'm not sure we totally get the probiotics, and how they become bacteria in our gut. That's for me anyway. It might be me that I'm missing a link. I don't think I am. But, where are they from? How do they colonize? And we know the prebiotics can keep them alive more and gives them their food. But the actual hairy little monkey creatures that are all in our guts, and these species, because there should be over 750 species of different bacteria in a dog's gut. And I know from the microbiologist Carol Hughes that sometimes she sees microbiomes that have only got two.
Wow. God,
Yeah,
that's quite scary, isn't it?
yeah, really scary.
I mean,
So
scary, but it's not surprising as well.
do you not think so?
Well, I think, with you know, diets and stuff these days, it kind of, it's
It's
yeah,
all sterile.
yeah. And with it, antibiotics are given out like, like they're not a problem. Obviously antibiotics do good in the sense that they're killing off a bad bacteria, but they do so much damage to all of the good bacteria. And I don't think that people realize how much damage antibiotics can do. And when they're given just to say, oh, maybe just take those and see if that works, can be quite dangerous.
Oh gosh, 100%. But I know Paleo Ridge has got bone broth, haven't you? And bone broth has been studied to really boost the bifidobacteria that are known for creating happy moods. The biffy people, the bifidos, they're happy. They're kind of, you imagine they're bouncy. I don't know why. Bouncy and hairy. That's how I imagine them. Hello. I don't know. Bifidos. I think I've lost the plot. No, but I just think that the name bifidobacteria is kind of friendly, isn't it? Right. Yeah. So so there's no harm in adding some Paleo Ridge bone broth into the mix as well.
Yeah, bone broth is wonderful. As the recent study that's been done on it was gave great results, and it does have an impact on the microbiome. So feeding bone broth. And the good thing about bone broth as well is that you can include it, in many ways into your dog's diet. You can give it with food or gently warm it and have it as, a nice warm drink, freeze it in the summer. So yeah, there's lots you can do with it.
Absolutely. No, it's a really hydrating source. It's full of electrolytes, so particularly in the summer, it's really beneficial to cool your dog down quickly and efficiently. It nourishes and moisturizes so much better and effectively than just water. That's going to be another podcast where we can talk about broth lollipops.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. We like things like that. Oh, Esther, no, it's been so great to catch up, really. And I'm so excited about, the Bristol fungarium and the reishi and tinctures. And I have a feeling it's just the tip of the iceberg, really, to, more fantastic products coming out of Paleo Ridge.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you so much for having me on again. I always love talking to you. And I know that we could just go on talking for hours, but I very much appreciate having us on again.
Oh, no, listen, absolute pleasure. And I really hope you'll be back soon.
Yes, definitely. Absolutely.
Hurrah. Well, that's our show, everyone, and I hope you all enjoyed it. Don't forget to do the rating and the reviewing. And thanks, of course, to Esther Logue for joining us today. And all the links, of course, to Paleo Ridge are in the show notes. Thanks to Mike Hansen, my producer, for all the music and production as ever. And if you haven't already, go on, subscribe, because it's free. And that way you'll never miss another show. Well, we'll be back in your feed next Sunday. So bye for now.